There we go. Hey, Sean, whole new setup tonight. Trying some different things. Coming down to the wire. And what an appropriate thing to deal with when talking about the work-life balance. Because I'm late to this work thing because of life. And so this stream is preempted by a few different things. Maybe preempted's not the right word, but before we talk about work-life balance, we need to understand what work is and what life is. And for me, these things have been so intertwined that it's been difficult for me to articulate, even to myself, what I'm focusing on. And lately, I've been putting a ton of work into my own personal philosophy, and I've been diving deep into Stoicism and trying to let this influence my decisions as a creative business professional, and as a partner and father and coworker and parent and all the other things that I am. And it's difficult sometimes to pull these things apart because when you work, this is part of your life. And so my main takeaways are split into a few different pieces tonight. And if you're watching this and you can't hear me, okay, that's what I'm talking about. Let me turn it up because we're trying something new. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. Maybe that's better. Maybe it's awful and noisy, and there's nothing I can do about that. Hi, so I'm also trying to monitor the chat on a different device here, but there's a delay with everything, so thank you. So, the first of these takeaways is that in order to have a good work-life balance, depending on what your life is, you need a really good partner. And this isn't unique to video production. This isn't unique to even creative business. Whatever your work is, if you don't have a strong, supportive relationship with a partner, you're gonna have a bad time. And I look at my own personal experience, and the only comparison I have to this is that I have friends who have complained about their partners, or who have the stereotypical like, oh, don't tell my wife we're up to there, I have to make up some story while we're out this late. And I've been fortunate not to have to deal with that, and I cannot express enough gratitude for my partner and what she does, not only to give me the space to do the things that I do, but also to encourage me to push and to try. And with anything, and I think for me it's easier to see this in creative pursuits, but with anything, you have to push yourself and do things that are out of your comfort zone, or maybe adjacent to what you really want to do, but it helps. And for me, YouTube live streams, absolutely. These don't make any money. These don't do anything. These aren't helping me convert clients. This isn't getting views. These YouTube live streams, it's so easy to say these are an absolute waste of time. And I've done so many of them, and I'm committed to doing more of them. Again, I'm back Tuesday nights at 8:30. But why? And why would I do more work and do this random live stream when instead I could be living my life? If this is work, it is not life, if that's the argument that this video is making. And so, and let me know if the audio is still garbage. I'm really sorry about this. Yeah, with something like this, to have the support of somebody, anybody, especially your partner, to say, you should do YouTube live streams. Just try it. And the things that I've learned from this, and I've talked about this before, but the public speaking, the concentration, the writing, the editing, the reps on production and setups and trying different things, so that when a client comes to me and says, hey, we want to do live streaming, I can say, hey, I know what works, what doesn't. I know what would be too much gear. I know what wouldn't be enough gear. And I'm constantly toying with it. Tonight, we're shooting with my iPhone across the way with my Zoom and a microphone plugged into it, which is hopefully working. One missing piece is that I can't really monitor it. Although I could turn up this stream. Okay, the problem is this microphone isn't working. I think this is wasted and it's just, but this is what I'm talking about. This is learning, and it's so easy to say, well, what a dumb thing. What a silly thing this is to have spent this much time putting this all together for nothing. And there are things that come out of this, but to have a creative partner, to have somebody like, I have this budding relationship with Sean Kirkland, and there is nothing that I have tried to do where Sean isn't saying, here are some good reasons to do that. And he doesn't say yes to everything. It's not just that, but he can see that there's value in stuff. And having a creative partner like that is remarkable. But more than that, having somebody who is that cheerleader for you in your life helps this work-life balance. And I'm going to take, since we're embracing our mistakes today, since apparently this isn't working as well, I'm just going to bring this in a lot closer. And hopefully it sounds a little bit better too. Thanks for your patience. But with a good partner, with this first step being to do this well, you need a good partner. For me, trying things, doing YouTube Live, spending time on YouTube videos, things that have taught me invaluable lessons about video production and creativity, and my constant meditation on what is the right philosophy for a creative business. These things all impact my work, but they have to start in a place in my life, and it has to come with support from my life. Because if this were the kind of thing where anytime I try to do something, it's met with eye rolls and like, okay, have fun talking to your phone in the basement, I already hear that voice, but it's my own voice. And to have your own doubts balanced out by a good partner make it so much easier. Again, not just with video, but with any creative pursuit or with any work, anything that you're doing. Having a good partner helps you find that work-life balance, because there's the tiniest bit of integration, at least spiritual integration of, no, my partner is not helping me create this stuff, but my partner is supporting me in pursuing it, and that is just as valuable, if not more valuable. So that's thing one. If you want to have a good work-life balance, you need a good life, and for that you need a good partner. Good boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, partner, whatever that is. Somebody who isn't intertwined, isn't a part of your actual work, but is a part of you doing it in a way that they can see it, they see how hard you work on it, and they can support that, because that has been paramount to me doing all of this. And growing my company and starting a kids show and the work that we've done on that, and it's not even done, that is a ton of work and a ton of overhead, and it'd be easy for anybody to say, Sean, stop. Don't throw good money after bad. It was a fine idea, but you just can't pull it off. It's too unrealistic. That voice only comes from me inside this house, and that's a powerful thing for which I am very grateful. So that brings me to thing number two. And thing number two is the biggest thing of my past few weeks. But as I dive deeper into Stoicism and try to apply these life things to my work things, I've talked about Ryan Holiday books quite a lot. In the first book, he introduces the concept that the obstacle is the way. Memento mori. Meditate on your death. And this was something which has been hard for me historically, and I have shied away from it. And yet, in the past few weeks, I've had my own struggles and a few health issues that are difficult to ignore and that don't seem dire, but it's hard to say like, oh, we'll just ignore that, and that'll be fine. And understanding how some things can be so fleeting, and then looking around the world and seeing the conflict and there's bad things happening, and life could end at any point, and that's terrifying. But using that as a guideline, I'm in the process of firing a client of mine. I just made a podcast about this. If you're one of the two people that listens to the podcast, maybe you heard this. But I have a very lucrative client that I've worked with for several years, and I'm just done with them. Everything's a headache with them. It's not rewarding work. They cut corners everywhere with their budget, so that the work that we do isn't what we're capable of. It's just what they need for that project, and it's ungrateful. It's awful. And as I begin my family leave, I'm taking the next few months. Family leave is a generous term. I'm a freelancer. I'm just choosing not to actively earn my usual revenue stream for the next few months, and I am grateful once again for a well-employed partner that we're able to make this work. But with this reduced time, they had a project that they took too long to agree to. It was supposed to be completed already, and they're just now beginning it, and I thought they had chosen somebody else. And now I'm in the spot where I don't want it, but I don't want to burn bridges, and I'm grateful for the work that we've done. But what it boiled down to is, when I thought about it like this: if I had 1 week to live, would I do that project? And no, obviously no. Of course not. If I had 2 weeks to live, if I knew I had 2 weeks to live, would I do the project then? No. A month? No. 2 months? 3 months? 4 months? And the more I thought about it, take that number out as far as you want. Unless you can say, well, I'll do this project. If I can live for another 10 years, it will make sense to do this project. And it's so easy once you look at it like that for me to say, no, if I'm not doing this project without a guarantee that I'm going to live for 10 years, I don't want to waste the time. I don't want to spend the hours and hours bringing this project to life. That's not going to be a good project, and it's not going to be my fault that it's not a good project, but why would I do that? And once I started looking at it in those terms, it started to become easier to say, well, what is work that I want to be doing? What is work that I don't want to be doing? And understanding that I do need to pay the bills. But I also, if I had a month to live, I would need to pay bills. But I would want to pay those bills in a way that's rewarding, with work that means something to me and that is fulfilling, and work that I can leave behind, and a legacy I can leave behind. And so, as I've explored this over the past few weeks, the work-life balance has become easier because I understand what is work and what is fun work. And my life, and however much left of it I have, hopefully a ton, there's no reason to think I wouldn't, other than the reason that anyone else wouldn't. But I want to make sure that I'm spending that with my family and working on projects that matter to me, that I could look back on my life and say, I didn't waste a bunch of time with ungrateful clients cranking out projects just to pay a bill. But I created something that I'm proud of. And so this idea of meditating on your mortality is tough, but it really puts the work-life balance in perspective, and being able to step back and say, I can dial back work so I can dial up life, and choosing what I do day to day. That's been a pivotal thing to think about for me, and has brought some clarity and not a sense of urgency, but, oh, Fabian, hi from Vietnam, welcome. Good to see you. I'm excited to catch up with you sometime, and I watched your sheep video, and though I could understand no words of it, I was entranced for like the 40 minutes of that video. But, speaking of work life, making relationships and making things with people that matter to you, that's what good work should be. And so this brings me to the final phase of this discussion that I've been thinking about. And there's tons more here. But having a good partner and understanding what life is. And for me, my kids, my wife, my family, my friends, that is my life. And there's some work that I get to do with some of those people, and that is the most rewarding of that work. And there's some work that I do that gets consumed by those people, and that means a lot to me. And the fact that anyone would sit here and watch this live stream, and that anyone would spend any minute of their life
given what I'm talking about, that you would sit here for a minute and listen to me is so humbling. And it's an honor and a responsibility to say, okay, if I'm putting content out there, something to be consumed, I want it to be worth it. I don't want it to be something where I'm clickbaiting people into whatever. And I got sucked into a YouTube K-hole last night of YouTube shorts for like an hour. And it's been a while since I've just disappeared where I didn't realize what time it was, and just short after short, something being chosen for me. And afterwards, I was like, what an absolute waste. I should have spent that hour doing literally anything else. And it's just gone. And it sort of jump-started, even though I picked the topic for this stream a week ago, it jump-started my passion again for like, well, what is important to me? And what should I have spent that hour on? And if I had a week left, how much of it would I want to spend on YouTube Shorts? If I had 2 weeks left, how much would I want to spend watching random YouTube Shorts? Not a lot. I would watch some YouTube because there's people that inspire me, and there's content that I appreciate. But in general, it just became a good example of what am I spending my time on, because it is finite for all of us. Life is terminal. And I apologize if you didn't sign up for how heavy this seems, at least to me. But again, with what's going on in the world, it's hard to just think, well, everything's going to be fine for me forever. And you probably think the same thing. And to me, when I became, 12 weeks ago, a father for the second time, everything changed again. The stakes seemed to get higher. And not just for the time spent with my family, but for the work that I do as a legacy to that family, as an inspiration to that family. And I remember when my son was first born and I was struggling with going back to work, for me it was like, well, I could just not work and spend all my time with him, and that would be kind of the best thing, where like, what's a better way of saying I love you than just giving yourself completely to somebody? But I thought about my own father, and my own father, he worked a lot, and he built an incredible company and employed a lot of people, and has then used his gains to be charitable with his community and his family, and he dedicates his time to places like, it's an absolute inspiration, and I'm grateful that I had that role model in my life, have that role model in my life. Hi, Dad. And I feel that responsibility to do that. And if I just spend every day taking him to the playground, yeah, that's quality time. But would he look back in 30 years and be like, my dad didn't do anything? He just took me to the playground and watched YouTube shorts and occasionally shilled for a corporation to make some bad content to pay the bills. And so I'm looking down and I see the question, what is a good partner? If you're just joining, the first thing I talked about was what is a good partner, and I'll summarize it by saying somebody who supports you, to push yourself and try things, and doesn't roll their eyes at you when you're attempting new things. And so the second piece of how important are the elements of your life has been consuming me lately, but it brings me to the final piece. What does a day look like? What does a good day look like? And unfortunately, if you're watching the stream waiting for the perfect answer, I don't have one, and you will never find one. But what I heard today, it was in Ryan Holiday's podcast, was a quote from Seneca or Marcus, or one of the Stoics, who said, if you want to be a beautiful person, make beautiful decisions. Start making beautiful decisions. And that hit me right where I needed it, because it doesn't mean you're doing particular things at all times or at any point, but to make a beautiful decision, to have that be your motivation and your North Star, your guiding principle of, it might not always be right or wrong. I might blow off a client to spend some time over here. I might stay up late or indulge in something to feel a certain way, and to whatever these things are, if there's a good reason behind them, and it's not just laziness, it's not just apathy, but if you're making a beautiful decision, and if you can justify that decision being in line with what you want, then you're going to be the person that you want. And I think it was in Atomic Habits by James Clear, I think, where he was talking about every day is just a vote for the type of person you want to be. And it doesn't matter where you are. What matters is your trajectory. Where are you pointing? And the example he gave in there that I really liked was you could be really wealthy. You could have millions of dollars. But if you spend more money than you make, you will run out of money. And that's the trend. That's all that matters is you're spending more money than you make. It doesn't matter where you are on the graph of how much money you have. Your trajectory is bad because you're spending more money than you're making, so you will run out. Conversely, if you don't have any money, but you're spending less money than you are making, then your trajectory is good. And insert anything here. Insert your health habits, your diet, your creative work. If you spend every day saying like, "Wow, I'm not a famous videographer, so nothing's worth it right now," that's a bad way to view it. If instead you can say, today and yesterday I made something, I did something, I tried something, and that's the type of person I want to be. That's all that matters. Because then tomorrow, if you do it again, and the day after that you do it again, and you make these beautiful decisions again and again, you're gonna get to a spot where you are the person, and you realize it's not about where you are on the line, it's just about the trajectory of the line. And wherever that line gets truncated for any of us, as long as that line is pointing in a good direction, that's what matters. That's what's inspiring to our families. That's what a strong legacy looks like. And trying to tailor that to yourself is not an easy thing, and it takes some thoughtfulness. And so take the time to do it. Sit down, write a little bit, and say, who do you want to be? What type of person do you want to be? And what is one thing you could do today? Only one thing. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry that you spent the last week eating like garbage and not working out. Don't worry that you haven't filmed anything fun or that you haven't tried a YouTube live stream ever. Instead, say, well, what could I do today? What could I do tomorrow and the day after? And even if you don't rocket yourself into your idea of success quickly, by spending the time making tiny steps, you're going to create a trajectory that you can be proud of. And that's what matters. And that's where the work-life balance comes in. Because if you can spend a lot of time with your family and still do a little bit of work that's pointing you in the right direction, or if you're doing a lot of work, if you can do it in a way where you can still spend time with your family, then that's a good thing. And the other thing I love from Atomic Habits was the idea of every day is just a vote for what type of person you want to be. And if you don't build this, I did it yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before, and I've got this great streak going. It's not about the streak. It's just about, in a given week, did you do more things that are on your trajectory that you want than you did against your trajectory? Did you eat better? Did you eat good food more times than you ate bad food? Because each one of those things is just a vote for the type of person, and you can tally them up at the end of the week, the month, of the year, whatever, and say, well, most of the time, I did create something. I did push myself out of my comfort zone. I did try something that I wouldn't have tried before. And that's where I find myself of, I don't know when it's all going to be over. None of us do. And it's a dark thing to consider. But knowing that today I feel pretty good about the progress that I made with my family and my work is all that matters. And last night was not good progress, but it doesn't matter because now I've got another point on the line. And 2 days ago I had another point, and the day before that, and the week before that. There are things building up, and that's ultimately what matters. So if you want to be a beautiful person, make beautiful decisions, and take a little bit of time to understand what's important. And the last thing, to make this all maybe a little bit easier, the last thing I leave you with is this. There's a story in The Daily Dad, another book by Ryan Holiday. This video not sponsored by Ryan Holiday, but his stuff has been making me think lately. There's a story about James Caan and a classmate of his that were both in acting school, and they had to do some scene where they had to wear tights. And they were both like football playing, athlete, popular people. And James Caan went and put on the tights, and his classmate did not put on the tights. because his classmate knew that people would make fun of it. And I think the story boiled down where in The Godfather, James Caan is Sonny Corleone. He's in The Godfather. And this other guy was a producer. So he stayed in the industry but wasn't an actor. Gave up on his dream of being an actor because of shame. And the chapter ended with this, like, where would you be if you weren't afraid to put on the tights? And that to me is the big underline in all of this work-life balance. There's stuff that you want to try, stuff that you want to do that you just won't because you feel shame. And that is something you are consenting to. Feeling shame is something you have to give your permission to do. And it's really easy for anyone to look at a live stream and say, hey, not many people watched that. Hey, here's all your problems with it. Hey, your audio sounded bad. There's a bunch of things that make it easy to not do something. But if you can get past that and ignore those voices of the people who aren't supporting you, you can do so much, and you can start putting those points on the line in the trajectory you want to create for what you want your work and your life to be. And you'll find that balance, but it takes time to understand what you want, how you can get there, and how you can have a support system that pushes you there so that your biggest naysayer will be yourself, because you'll ignore the comments and the criticism from people who are just full of comments and criticism and aren't creators or supportive. But you can put yourself in a spot where you can, at the end of every day, be happy with what you're creating and where you're heading. Because ultimately, that's all that matters. Thank you so much for watching this. Again, it is an absolute privilege to have your time. I'm constantly in shock of the fact that anyone would take the time to watch this. It means a lot to me, and it's a responsibility that I take very seriously. I hope you have a great day or night or whatever, wherever. See you later. Bye.